I wasn't talking about me.
You're not in there yet.
There I am. There's the good-looking guy. Okay, we have to buddy up, but we know each other a little bit better than most. So,
And we're in a park.
We're in two guys in a park in Taylorsville, Utah. Look out.
We're getting the looks.
Welcome, everybody. It's the Daily Bend, and I've got Thomas with me today, and we're going to talk about a bunch of stuff. But thanks for joining us. We're in Taylorsville, Utah, in the United States. This is Periscope. Remember, we download these shows onto YouTube and then onto the webpage, BEAU'D.com. And I am excited today. We're going to get right into the show. Every few minutes I go, this is what we're doing, so people know. I look at my time, all that kind of stuff. But there's really no time frame. We're here. We're amongst friends today because Thomas has been a cop for a long time, and I've wanted to have him on, not because of that, but because of some other things that he does. I think the important thing to remember today is it's pretty close to Law Enforcement Memorial Week, isn't it? Isn't that like next week or something like that? You know, we're talking about firefighters, police officers, public safety people that, you know, put their lives on the line and do all those other things. But behind the scenes, there's so much that goes on with these great people, because it's not just doing their duty. They live it all day, every day, and they do things for people that aren't seen. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. But anyway, thanks for joining us. Again, it's the Daily Bend. And Thomas, tell us a little bit about yourself. I know enough about you to be dangerous. Smile, grin. But tell us a little bit about yourself, and then family, a little bit about your family. Just go where you want to go. And then how you got involved in public servancy and your business and things like that. And then we'll get into talking about your book and all that fun stuff.
Perfect. Again, as Beau said, my name is Thomas Loevile. I was born and raised in New Jersey.
He's a Jersey boy.
Fell in love with
no, that's horrible.
What exit? What exit?
Huh? Yeah,
that's what they always say. You from Jersey? What exit? Fell in love with a blonde lady and been married 21 years. We have two biological children of our own, Caitlin, who's 16, and Elise, who's 10. I actually, in 1987, believe it or not, started working with kids. And ended in right before my law enforcement career at the detention center here in Utah, in Salt Lake City. And then decided, since that was my last.
So you were you weren't in youth corrections,
yeah.
Or were you?
Yeah,
okay,
youth
so
corrections.
Youth corrections is not like adult corrections because it's a different system, but
yeah.
Okay, youth corrections.
It's correcting.
Yeah,
it's
trying
to correct. Yeah. And in New Jersey, I was started with the 55 conduct disorder children in northern New Jersey from South Jersey, and anyway, spent 20 years plus in that career and working with kids, and I think I always had it in my heart, still have it in my heart, to help kids. My wife and I fostered kids for about 10 years, 35 adolescent females.
35 adolescent females.
Yes, and I think a lot of people who do foster care or proctor care think that it's that time that you have the kids. That's the only time you actually have those kids, and realistically it's for life. I mean, I get texts just about every day, and it's been 12, 15 years since I've seen some of them.
So how old is your oldest technically foster child?
33.
33. Mm-hmm. Wow, that's cool.
13 years ago.
Families of their own, some of them,
yep.
in
Given
many
a
cases.
few away at their weddings, and
right.
They have children of their own, so they call me Grandpa. And
there's one big teddy bear right here, I'm telling you right now. So all those foster kids, do you still have some?
No foster
currently,
kids.
No.
Well,
okay.
I mean, they're always going to be foster kids, but we stopped. When I started law enforcement, I thought that there'd be a conflict there.
And you've been in how long policing?
12 years with
12.
the current agency now,
okay.
And then 2 others. So I have just under 6 years to go, so 5+ years.
In that system?
In that system.
But don't you have something in the other one too? Good, good. Talk about retirements. That's a good thing.
It's always a good thing.
Yeah.
Love Utah. Been here 20 years, almost 20 years. Still get home every once in a while to Jersey.
Yeah, we see that on the beach and all that fun stuff.
Going to Florida for a month in June, and policing, you mentioned Police Week and you mentioned the police world, and I think there's a certain attitude from the public, and I don't think it's a very good attitude for some of the public. But as Beau said, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes in law enforcement, at least from my personal views. There's a lot of need for the homeless. I mean, we can go on and on and on.
Right,
but for
right.
the younger generation, they're lost.
You're watching the Daily Bend, and on BEAU'D Not Broken, where with Thomas we're talking about his family, his life, his foster children that are his children forever, some of the things that he's done. Been in law enforcement for a long time. I think you could probably add, you could be in it for 30 some odd years now or whatever, because youth corrections is just as dicey as what you're doing. You got to protect yourself. One point that you made, maybe because it is pretty close to Law Enforcement Week, and it may be, I've got to check my dates. I know they put some new names on the wall yesterday. Doug Barney, and yes. I know you knew him. I knew him. He was a student of mine. Not a real close friend, but I know you probably work with him a lot. My point being, have you seen a change in policing over the last 12 years, or even 20 plus? Even here in Utah, I mean, has there been, not particularly to officers in the line of duty deaths, but the kind of the whole mentality about police officer? I know we enjoy a pretty nice respectability here, or
yeah. Oh,
you
definitely
do.
In Utah.
Okay, but what have you seen kind of nationally and here, kind of a turn, or maybe not?
I definitely have seen several turns, and I think when a buddy of mine, Derek Johnson, was shot and killed a few years back.
Derek was from Draper.
Correct.
Right. Derek was another
neat guy.
Student of mine.
He actually worked with me in the gang unit.
Oh, okay.
And when Derek passed, when he was shot and killed, I saw the flip side of why I wanted to be a cop in the first place. We drove from point A to point B, and I saw people with flags and waving to us, and that was new to me.
Right.
I hadn't seen that.
Right.
And unfortunately, because of his tragedy and Doug Barney's tragedy, you see more of that respect, or the community getting involved and the community supporting law enforcement, but you don't see that on a daily basis.
Right.
So you go 8 years and you're used to the aggressive, I pay your salary, that type of event.
Right.
And that was kind of interesting to see, and I know I stepped aside and reflected a little bit and said to myself, this is exactly why I became a cop, not for the deaths, but for the community support.
We talk a lot on the Daily Bend when BEAU'D Not Broken about faith and courage and endurance, and not necessarily that faith of religious faith, but faith in yourself and the courage. Talk a little bit about a day in the life of a police officer in having faith in yourself. I mean, every day. Well, every day you strap that belt on, and the cliches, and you put the badge on, and you go out and fight the war. You got to be a little self-confident, don't you?
Absolutely.
And you got to have that. It's really not a career for the lighted-hearted, and it's not a career. No. It's actually a calling. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, when I started in the jail, obviously working with kids, you don't work with kids for 20 plus years and not want to help one, two, or the whole generation.
Right.
But then going into law enforcement, I mean, I enjoyed my law enforcement career up to this date, because when people call 911 or when they call the non-emergency, you're going to help somebody, whether it's a tragedy or it's a cat stuck in the tree, or you're going to help somebody. And I think that's part of the career that everybody loses,
right,
or doesn't see. I'm happy to go from call to
that
call.
That community part, a little bit.
Depending on what area you patrol, you get met by two people who are fighting, or let's just say that on a traditional day, many people that are fighting. You either become the good guy or the bad guy instantly. You become the good guy because you're separating two people, you're playing the referee.
Right.
Or you now are taking away the only means of support that other person has.
Right.
So traditionally, I mean, the domestics, and there are some other calls. I don't want to say not so important, but there are some calls that people could have probably figured out themselves before they call the police.
Right.
A lot of those are the civil issues we deal with on a day-to-day basis. But to me, it's an honor to wear the uniform. It's an honor for me to say, in 5 years or so, I get to choose another career.
Right.
I want to teach.
Right.
That I think is my third calling. So.
Right. So talk. You're watching the Daily Bend. We have Thomas here. We have got a storm coming at us. So if I have to pick this thing up and hold it, we may have to weather the storm. There's a large dark cloud coming. Talk to us about your work with kids, and then give us a little idea of, after working with kids, what your book's all about, and,
okay.
and when that might be released, and what you're hoping to provide with that.
We set out on working in our home. The one thing about administration, and you'll understand this, and a lot of people understand this too, but the one thing about working with kids or working in a field that you love, and I don't want to say the better you get, but the more experience you have, the less you're going to be working with kids. So the more I moved up the chain of command, so to speak, the less I dealt with kids,
right,
and the more I dealt with people that worked with kids. And that hurt, because that's not why I got into the field in the beginning. So when I became an administrator, I ended up starting to take kids home with me, so to speak, and we went through it. We got licensed as a foster family, and we were one and the only foster homes in the state that would accept 3 people in our home.
Oh wow!
So we were packed with.
So do you
3
normally,
girls.
as a foster parent, do you only able to have one?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, unless
We
you
had
have
a special license.
like a big house full.
It wasn't
There's
big.
not that
but
many.
No, it wasn't.
Okay.
Our house isn't that big.
I'm going to pick this up because we're getting quite a bit of rain here. But go ahead. We're gonna punt. There we go. There we go.
So we got licensed for 3, and then in 2001, after about our second or third year, 2001, we decided to take the girls on a trip to New York City to see Ground Zero. And the one benefit to me is I've been there before it was
Right.
destroyed.
Right.
I've been in New York, but most of these girls had never even been out of Salt Lake County. So it was a whole new world. They got the pretzel vendors who say, forget about it.
Yeah, forget
they
about
joke
it.
and say, I didn't know they really talked like that. And we took some of the girls to Disneyland and
Right.
in California, and it was easy for me. And I do a lot of training with the female advocacy network. Used to be in females in gangs, and now I just juvenile females specifically. And what I see, and I'm no expert, but what I see within the female community, and it was easy for me to be a foster father because a lot of them didn't have fathers. So I was like kind of a big kid.
Right.
My wife, Kelly, on the other hand, had an issue because the girls resisted her immediately because they didn't want her to replace their mom.
Right.
So with me, it was pretty easy, and I'm kind of a, so to speak, a young person at heart.
Right.
I need to sometimes mature myself.
You can see that little grin on his face. He's got that little grin.
Yeah. But sometimes I feel 10, sometimes I feel 40.
Right.
And I'm somewhere around either one of those.
Really quick, why did you guys pick girls?
Good question. So we actually started foster care for boys.
Okay.
And the first 4 boys we had ran away.
Oh, okay.
Ran away.
Boys ran away.
And then we had the need for now the difference between adult probation and adult parole, and now there's juvenile probation and juvenile parole.
Right.
The juvenile parole had a hard time placing females.
Oh, okay.
So they called us when our home was empty, and they asked us, or they begged us, I think it was 98 or 99, for us to take this one girl in our house. She had nowhere to go. Mom was deceased. Dad was off with another family, and and she was, like all of them, kind of forgotten.
Right.
So we decided to try it, and you know, my wife being home, me being at work, I thought it, you know, wouldn't be that big of an issue. I initially did not want to work with girls. I knew nothing about girls.
Well, my initial thought, being an officer and being a man, having a house full of girls, in the sense of liability. I'm talking, girls could say, "Oh,
Yep.
you touched me wrong," or whatever. So
that was the fear.
yeah, exactly.
Because when I talk about, in fact, when I go and talk about females and how they kind of gravitated towards me because they never really had that man in their life,
right.
the role model. Many people in society has killed that for men being kind of a positive role model. And again, this is one of the reasons why I wrote a book. If you know me, you know I'm not a writer. Everybody watching this is
He's
kind
not
of
a writer.
I'm definitely not a writer. But so many people over your career and my career has, you know, they've all said, you know, you should write a book because you got stories forever. And before you forget those stories, you got to write them down. So I did that. And then I wrote about 12 of the girls I'm still very close to, and their struggles. They helped me write some of it.
Oh, very cool.
And
so they'll be a part of that.
Yeah.
There's the stories.
Absolutely.
Their stories.
Oh yeah, it's
Kind of like what we're doing right now.
Yep.
People telling their stories. That's cool.
It is their stories, and they leave it each. So I write how I met them as a cop. Most of them hate cops.
Right.
The relationship that gets built there, the trust that gets built there, they even help me in my business. We'll talk about that in a minute.
Right.
So I started writing, and I just started, you know, it's probably from page 1 to all the way to the 26,000 word is one run-on sentence, but there are other people that do really well at that.
Right.
Right, Miss Hanson?
You're watching the Daily
coach.
Bend. You're watching the Daily Bend with Thomas. He's talking about his book. He's been talking about his career career in calling and foster care, being a police officer, youth corrections, things like that. And we're talking about his book and how collaboratively with his own foster daughters, basically, has written a book. What do you call in the book? Do you have a title for that?
I do, and
because we'll talk more about it.
I have to be careful.
Okay.
But when I was in the gang unit here in Salt Lake County, I wanted to teach the gang conference something that hadn't been taught before, and that would be more the human side of policing, and they don't like that. But
no, they don't. So that was my whole career.
Yeah. So I went and I asked the girls in the juvenile detention to write their stories out. And most of them, I won't say what they told me.
Yeah.
But one.
Pound sand.
Yeah.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's made for TV version.
Pound New Jersey sand.
Yeah. So one of them wrote. It was probably 16 pages. And we clicked. I mean, I went in and talked to her, full-on gang member.
Right.
We clicked like no other.
Right.
She was named after, she had a flower name, and so I decided to name my book A Field Full of Daisies.
How cool.
So, you know, there's so many kids that you see, I see, everybody sees they're just lost.
Right.
And if in my few generations I've been alive, if I had something to say, and I always do, and you know that, I like to talk. Whether it's just a phone call or it's, can you help me on other things, legal issues?
Right.
And
right.
I'm not an attorney, but
no, but you get cops get called all the time. I still get, and I'm not even
sure. So again, it was me writing how I met them, and then them pretending like they broke into my computer,
right,
and said, "Oh no, this is how we met. This is what a jackass or a jerk he was."
Right.
And
you cuss. This is Periscope.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Those of you who know me know I have a potty mouth, so that's good. That's carte blanche. So they kind of wrote their stories on top of mine,
right,
and they end it. So the book is was kind of a, not a bet, but more of a, there's no way you could write a book. There's
No.
there's no way.
I've been trying to write a book for
No,
5
this
years.
is what they're telling me. There's no way.
Oh, it's true.
So when I did, and I finished writing this book, so I thought, and I thought maybe in a couple of months it would be published. Boy, was I wrong. You write, your 26,000 words, and and you have great writing coaches who say, I have no idea what you're saying in this sentence. I have no idea what police jargon you're using. And it's true.
Right.
I noticed even in this video, you're very good at translating what I'm saying.
Right.
And that's what I have to remember about the book, because when people read the book, it has to be, I have to use words that other people not in the industry will understand.
Will understand, sure.
So we've cleaned it up about 4 times now, and the publisher, amazing woman, loves the content, loves the idea of the book, and
what type of release time are we looking at?
Don't
know yet.
I thought it would be after I wrote it the first time, and then it came back to me 2 or 3 times, and I'm on the 4th rewrite now.
Yeah.
I'm hoping within my lifetime it gets released.
My lifetime, good.
That's a safe bet.
Field of Daisies.
A field full of daisies.
A field full of daisies. How cool! The stories of many. How many did you have in there? 12 foster daughters, and your experiences, the heartbreaks, the tragedies. I'm sure you lost. You lost maybe 1 or 2.
Oh yeah.
In the process.
Almost lost more than that. Almost lost a third.
Wow.
Whether it's in prison or yourself or anyway, so my idea was to write it up until, and for them, up until the reader says whatever happened to such and such. Now it's their turn to write a book.
Oh.
So now there should be 12 following my
Very
book.
Nice.
Should be 12 piggybacking on the initial book.
I think the benefit of having Thomas on today is if there's a lot of people out there that whether you're a foster parent or a regular parent, I think what you're going to have in your content is going to be pretty helpful for everybody, I would say. Don't you think?
Yeah.
Not that you're the consummate parent. We're not saying that, but I think I can't imagine somebody having more experiences with young adults, men and women, than someone that's in that youth correctional atmosphere, in the foster care, and being a police officer. I mean, I don't even pretend to even know. You can't even get an instructor in a college that could give you better, I guess, better parenting or how to get kids through their teenage years. And of course, you're going to win and you're going to lose, but I think that's a benefit of having Thomas on, is being able to kind of show this guy that straps the badge and the gun on, this warrior, but also, I mean, he's got to have the biggest heart in the world to take on that, and you definitely didn't do it for the money.
No.
It's not like you don't have the Mercedes hanging out there.
No.
Maybe one day with your business. Let's talk about that for a minute. He's employed some of his. He's employed
Stories.
some
Yeah.
of his young ladies, and they've been. I've worked for Thomas. I hope to work for him this summer. We do. He does all kinds of stuff. He does protection, and he does concerts. He does big time stars, all this kind of stuff. But they're even our bosses. They're telling us what to do, which is good. And talk a little bit about that.
So in 2003, I had a really good friend of mine had a bad motorcycle crash, and he kept telling me prior to this crash that I should go work Sundance Film Festival. It's a lot of fun. You don't get paid anything, but it's a lot of fun. And I kind of left it at that. When he went downhill on his motorcycle, he had some severe brain injuries. Well, his boss called me and said, "Hey, Brian said you might be interested in coming up and working Sundance." I'd been here 10 years and I had never heard of Sundance. So I went up, and as I was driving up, never done security in my life, the boss calls me and says, "Hey, I need you to take the lead on this." I don't even know what I'm doing. What do you mean take the lead? He says, "Well, there's a lady up there from New York." So I got this, I'm from Jersey. No worries.
No worries.
She's still a good friend of mine. This lady from
your
New York.
first client.
Yeah. So there was 3 of them at that time, 3 clients who I was working with. They all were partners. The one said to me, if you started your own company, we'd use you every year. So lo and behold, 2003, we started our own company, me and my partner, business partner. We're in the park. Sorry, I had to throw that in there.
I'm not his partner.
And we decided to do kind of the executive protections. The executive protection's the name of the company. And we lucked out. That year, they all split. So we had 3 contracts that very first year we were in business. All different. And again, it's bloomed, it's blossomed. People think just because you've been in business for 15 years or so, you're a great businessman. I still don't know how we've maintained, besides relationships, how we've maintained such a good reputation, such a great clientele. We've broken into the movie stuff now. And
yeah, you've had, I know you can't mention them all, but I mean, you've had huge stars, you've had dignitaries, he's had, I mean, protection, parties, concerts. I mean, you've done it all, really, and continue to do it all. And you've been incorporated, you know, some of your foster daughters into that, helping you out, planning, that's on the horizon.
Funny story about that. When a couple of years ago, it was probably about 2012, I employed the first one of my girls that's in the story, and this story is in the book. And she pretty much thought I was full of shit.
Right.
I tell her who I met, who she could possibly meet, and she's just like, whatever. This girl probably should have been in prison. And so she was my shadow. We were walking around, and we met with a client, and again, she just there to remember things I don't at that stage.
Right.
And I remember we walked in, and the client was telling us who was coming the very next week or the very next day, and she stopped me in the middle of Park City and said, you know what? I thought you were full of shit. I'm your woman for life. I am your woman. I'll do this for the rest of my life. And that year she got to meet her idol, Alicia Keys.
Oh, wow.
She got to go say hello to Alicia Keys, and she was ear to ear grinning, and to take someone who has been in a different game for so long, and doesn't know coping skills, or doesn't know that there's a real giant life out there for them, and opportunities for them, and they're great at it. Some of them are great at it.
Right.
Others, the dependability is not there yet, but we're working on it.
Right. But they know how to, I mean, if they've learned how to keep themselves safe, they're I guess it's that survival mode. They've learned how to, with skills, coping skills, basically their mouth, and
absolutely.
That insecurity, protection, or whatever is paramount. You don't want to have to use anything on anybody. This is the Daily Bend. We've been talking to Thomas about his foster children, his police life. I wish we had an hour and a half or 2 hours. We've talked about his business, his great business that he's got, and I'm always fortunate to hang out with him in Deer Valley in front of. It's just an amazing experience for a guy who, an old cop that just did whatever and went into the crappiest. It's pretty cool up there. It's really neat. Real quick, I always ask my guests, growing up, who are your heroes? Parents.
And it's funny, I actually have not seen a long version of the show, but when we had foster kids, my first couple of questions to the boys that would want to date the foster girls or take them to prom, that was my very first question. Who is your role model?
Who's your role model?
Snoop Dogg, sorry Snoop.
Right.
They wouldn't be dating my foster kids.
Right.
But that's
so
my parents, my mom and dad.
I would imagine, today's Boat Friday. I would imagine you're the superhero of many of those girls. Having a father figure, he's going to be humble, but I'm just pointing out something probably pretty obvious that he's a hero to them as well. How about any movies? I always ask too. Any movies like way back, anything influence you growing up and stuff like that?
I would say my very first movie that I was allowed to see that still carries on to my kids is Grease.
Grease.
Grease. I watched my 10-year-old. This movie was what, 35 years old. My kids are still singing to that song. All those songs.
That's funny.
Grease. I mean, then you get a little older, and Scarface was kind of influential. And
Right.
my own. I was in a movie.
Right.
Colorless Green. It's not out yet, but I was in that movie. That's my favorite, of course.
Colorless Green. Oh my gosh. Okay. Too much fun.
Yes.
Anything you want to add? I mean, anything you want to tell? Anybody out there, maybe an advocate? You know, we've been talking about suicide, veterans. Were you a veteran? Were you in the military?
No.
You know, the suicide rates of teenagers, veterans, cops, firefighters. I mean, you know, we're doing the 22 push-ups for, you know, for 20 days. But, and I wanted to ask you this, you know, what kind of advice can you give? And you never know who you might touch. This is people telling their stories to other people, and it might help. What could you tell a parent? What could you tell a teacher? What do you tell somebody about? Because, I mean, you've many times been on the brink of one of your daughters committing, you know, one of those 33 committing suicide.
And you know, I thought a lot about this. I actually want to end my career in a school to teach young kids. But if you get involved because oftentimes, and again, when you're in the policing world, you see the ugly side of suicide.
Yeah.
Almost.
The ending.
Yeah, the ending.
The gore, the guts, the whole thing.
And you think to yourself as a human, you know, wow, great life or not so great life, but appears to have a decent life. And if I would have gotten to them, or if they would have gotten help, and if people would have charged into their life, things may have been different. I think getting involved with anyone who is isolating, getting involved with anybody that needs help, and again, just like you, being a resource for somebody who's in trouble who wants to call me, you're welcome to call me, and I'll try and talk you to death, or not so long, but just having somebody to just listen to.
Right.
I think resources are limited, resources are scarce. They don't know when they're at that point in their life that they have somebody maybe a little bit distant from their family that they can tell their whole life story to, or they can tell how they're feeling, or they can talk to. So being a resource, I mean, that you can't beat that. You allowing me to come on the show, I think, like I said, you're a resource. I know I can call you, you can call me, and then everybody else here that's thinking about depression or thinking about ending their life can call. Again, like I said, I'll talk your ear off.
Right.
And if that's what you need, call us.
Awesome.
Being the resource.
Awesome. Thank you, my friend. Want to thank everybody for watching. We'll download this to YouTube. I always look over here and we got camera. I don't know where the camera is. Anyway, want to thank Thomas for coming on. This has been the Daily Bend. Remember, you know, when I say it's all about the Bend, what I mean is there are a lot of people out there that can help each other, and this show is just to help, you know, and just to help people tell their stories. Something that you might hear might help someone you know. Send these shows to people. Show them what it is. This is not about me. It's not about Thomas. It's about us helping. There might be a topic that, you know, resonates with you or doesn't resonate with you during this show or other shows. But, you know, try and get it out there as much as I'm getting a tremendous amount of feedback from people about how worthwhile the show is. We want to continue to do it. I'm going to probably do a little promo to see if we can't get some sponsors for the show. Don't need a whole lot of money, just want to keep it, you know, keep it moving. And then again, one more thing I wanted to mention again, you know, the Life Worth Living Foundation. I've had, you know, John Gossett on. I had Toby Lee on. I'm having, you know, having Thomas on about his issues, you know, with his foster daughters and other people as a cop. And then the veterans, we've had, you know, we've had a couple of veterans on, you know, Jerry Bench was on, and what an amazing guy he is. Wrote his own book, which is amazing. Stay with us, folks. Stay with us no matter what the depression is, whatever it is. My phone number's all over the place. I know your phone. I know you are. I know there's so many suicide You know, I post the suicide hotlines, the veterans hotlines, all those kinds of things. Stay with us. We're here to help each other out. Again, it's all about the Ben. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks, buddy.
Absolutely.
We're